Hi, this is Teacher Jennifer from U.S. Citizenship Podcast. Today we're celebrating Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. In fact, some people celebrate all week and some people even celebrate it all month. On U.S. Citizen Pod, you will see some of our resources for citizenship, for Constitution and Citizenship Day. Also, we have a special button for that. We have resources for ESL students about voting in the 2020 election. And of course, we have resources for Hispanic Heritage Month. But today, I'm going to share with you an extra long quiz that I wrote for Constitution and Citizenship Week. Let's get started. So I've divided this up. We're going to see the N400 Part 1 section 1 through 10 first. Then we'll go to Part 12, and then we will continue on to 27 questions organized according to the different sections of the Constitution. So it's going to be an extra long quiz tonight. Number 1, explain how you are eligible to become a U.S. citizen. Most people will answer, I have lived in the United States for 5 years. Question 2, state your full name. My full name is Lan T. Win. Now don't be confused by the word state. This can also mean the word to say. Question 3, what is the date of your permanent residence? So let's take a look at this. The best answer to this one will be the month, the day, and the year. And July 4th, 1776 will not work. The best answer for this one will be August 15th, 2010. Next question. What is your current home address? And my current home address, they don't want you to use a post office box. You can use that for your mailing address, but they want a street address. 19 Kennedy Drive, Milpitas, California, 95035. Question 5, do you work? They want a simple yes or no answer here. Yes, I work. If you say auto mechanic, that could be talking about your profession, but that doesn't indicate if you're actually working right now. Let's move on. We're going to go up to number 6. Since becoming a permanent resident, how many trips have you taken outside the United States? So again, they're asking about trips. So the answer will be 5 trips. 5 trips. Question 7, tell me about your last trip. When did you leave and when did you come back? And so here they're looking for 2 dates, the date that you left, and here is for January 20th, 2015, and returned February 21st, 2015. It looks like to me that this student went back to Vietnam for the Tet Festival. Next one, what is your current marital status? My current marital status is I'm married. Question 9, do you have any children? And the best thing to answer for this one is I have 3 children. So now, this one has been updated. It is no longer part 11, which it used to be part 10 and then part 12. It is now part 12. Part 12. So the first question, have you ever claimed to be a United States citizen? The answer to this one will be yes. And then we're going to get into a lot of definitions here. What is to claim? And to claim is, I have never said that I was a U.S. citizen. So you never made a false statement that you were a U.S. citizen. Question 11. Have you ever voted in the United States? No. And what is to vote? When you vote, you choose a new leader or law. And this is a question that they're actually asking at a lot of U.S. citizenship interviews. Have you ever voted in the United States? No. Why not? Why can't you vote? The answer is, I'm not a citizen yet. Number 12, do you pay your taxes every year? The answer is yes. And what is to file a tax return? What that is you're not sending your N-400 form. No. You're sending in, you're filling out and sending in a 1040 federal tax form and a 540 state tax form. At least that's the number in California. It might be a little bit different in your state. Next question. Have you ever been declared legally incompetent? The answer hopefully is no. And what is legally incompetent? A legally incompetent means a judge says you cannot take care of yourself. So a judge has not made the legal decision that you cannot take care of yourself. Somebody must do it for you. Somebody else must make important life decisions for you. Number 14, have you ever been a terrorist? Hopefully you will answer no. And what is a terrorist? A terrorist is not someone to protect the country. Who protects the country, they use guns or weapons to hurt the government and to hurt the people. So that is a terrorist. Of course, most people will think about 9/11. Have you ever persecuted another person? And the answer to this one is no. What is to persecute? Persecute is to hate and hurt people who are different. So most people, like everybody, they treat everybody the same, but to persecute is to hate and to hurt people who are different than you. Let us go on to the next questions. Let me clear this drawing here. Okay, so now we're going to go on to question 16. Have you ever sold or given weapons to another person? No. What are weapons? And guns and knives, anything who can help a person? No, this one they're focusing on anything that can hurt a person. So guns, bombs, these are things that can hurt people and can actually kill people. The next question, have you ever been a member of a gang? No. What is a gang? A gang is a group of criminals. So criminals are people who use weapons to force people to do things that are illegal. Maybe they use weapons to rob people or to take them hostage. Question 18. Have you ever been arrested? Answer is hopefully no. What is arrested? The police stop you and take you to jail because the police think that what did you do? You broke the law. So sometimes people arrest people who are innocent and hopefully they're let go soon. But this one, usually they arrest people who have broken the law. Question 19. Have you ever been a habitual drunkard? Hopefully you will say no. And what is a habitual drunkard? A habitual drunkard or a habitual alcoholic drinks too much alcohol every day and they become very sick. So for instance, you could also say somebody who is addicted to alcohol. And when you think about alcohol, that is beer, wine, vodka, those kind of alcoholic drinks. Have you ever been deported? And the answer is no. What is deported? Deported means that the U.S. government says that I must go back to my old country or my original country. So that's the bulk of the part 12, but now we're getting to attachment to the Constitution. And this one is really important, especially if you think about the oath of allegiance. And the oath of allegiance, basically, you're promising that you will be loyal to the Constitution and the government of the United States. So so the first question is, what is the Constitution? Oh, excuse me. Let me ask that question again. Question 21. Do you support the Constitution and the form of government of the United States? And you will say yes. So you've been saying no a lot. Make sure you say yes to this one. What is the Constitution? The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Again, it's the supreme law of the land. 22. Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance? Answer is yes. What is the oath of allegiance? The oath of allegiance is I promise to be loyal to the United States. So there's two questions about this in the civics questions about when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, what do we show loyalty to? We show loyalty to the United States, or we show loyalty to the flag. And the next question is, what is one promise you make when you become an American citizen? You give up loyalty to the other countries, and you promise to follow the constitutions and the laws of the United States. So again, please take a look at this oath of allegiance and see how it is basically reflected in these final questions at the N400. Question 23, what is the U.S. form of government? A lot of people, you could say it's a democracy or it's a republic. You don't want to say it's democratic because you're thinking of the Democratic Party or you think of the Republican Party. You don't want to say those. The party is not the government. You want to say that the government is a form of government, is it's a democracy or it's a republic. Number 24, do you promise to bear arms when required by law? Yes. What is to bear arms? And to bear arms means to carry a weapon when the law requires it. So you're using this weapon to protect the United States. Let's continue on. Do you promise to perform non-combatant work if the law requires it? And again, you're going to say yes. And then what is non-combatant? Well, this is without using weapons. So when you're talking about to bear arms, that's basically you're serving the United States by carrying a weapon when the law requires it. As a non-combatant, you're performing work of national service without using weapons. Question 26. Do you promise to help during a national emergency? And I hope you say yes, because now we're having a big national emergencies with fires and earthquakes, particularly in California. And the East Coast, they're really suffering with hurricanes. So please, when you're able to help people during a hurricane or tornado, any natural disaster, please step up and help. And one of the best places to help if there's a national emergency, of course, you would help the Red Cross. They're the ones who are probably the largest organization in the United States and in the world that brings disaster relief to different communities. Do you promise everything that you said is true, and hopefully you will say yes? You sign your name, and then you print your name. Now, because there's 27 amendments to the Constitution, I'm going to be asking 27 civics and history questions, and of course they are organized according to the structure of the Constitution. So number one, we're taking a look at an overview of the Constitution. And the first question is something that we know so well, is what is the supreme law of the land? And it's the Constitution. Question two, what does the Constitution do? And the Constitution does many things, but one of the best answers is it protects the basic rights of Americans. Now let's move on to historical background. Question three, what happened at the Constitutional Convention? So the answer to this one is the Constitution was written. The Constitution was written. And remember, the Bill of Rights will come in 1791. And the Federalist Papers also come after the Constitution was written, because they're trying to convince people to support the Constitution. And the Star-Spangled Banner was written during the War of 1812. Question four, when was the Constitution written? So the Constitution was written in 1787. If you said 1776, you're thinking about the Declaration of Independence. And if you said 1789, this is when the Constitution was finally ratified. The state of Delaware was the first state to ratify it, and I believe maybe in New York or possibly Rhode Island, one of the smaller states, was one of the last ones to ratify it. And in 1791, we finally get the Bill of Rights. Okay, now let's move on a little bit more history. So this one, the Federalist Papers supported the passage of the Constitution. Name one of the writers. And so this looks really interesting, but the answer that a lot of people like to give is John Jay. Of course, you can also say James Madison, who was our fourth president, and you could also say Alexander Hamilton, who was the first Secretary of the Treasury. He's on the $10 bill. But people really like John Jay. And one of the reasons is it's easy to say, but he was also he was a diplomat to Spain. He spoke Spanish very, very well. Was able to get the Spanish support for the American colonies during the Revolutionary War. He became one of the earliest Supreme Court justices. And then he basically, I understand that he retired and became governor of New York, of the state of New York after that. Benjamin Franklin was at the Constitutional Convention, but he didn't write the Federalist Papers. George Washington was also at the Constitutional Convention, but he did not write the Federalist Papers. And if we take a look at Thomas Jefferson at that time, I believe, was still in France as one of our ambassadors there. I think that's correct. I'll have to check especially on Thomas Jefferson at that time. Preamble. This is one of the most important questions that we have. The idea of self-government is in the first three words of the Constitution. What are these words? And these words are "we the people." Some of the most beautiful calligraphy ever done. So if we talk about freed the slaves, we're thinking about the Emancipation Proclamation. Finally, we're starting to get down to the heart of the Constitution, and The Constitution, the first 3 articles talk about the branches of government. So name one branch or part of the government, and one of the branches is Congress or the legislative branch. And what stops one branch of government from becoming too powerful? So here is something that's very important to our concept of federalism or our concept of democracy. We have the separation of powers. So the executive branch does not make laws, the legislative branch makes laws. So we basically separate the powers so someone cannot abuse the power. Let's go on to the first article, which is the legislative branch. And who makes federal laws? Well, most people will say Congress, but there's another word that you can use in there. You could say the legislature. And the legislature is a common word that means the group of people who make the laws. Let's go on to number 10. What are 2 parts of the U.S. Congress? And the 2 parts of the U.S. Congress are the Senate, the upper house, and the House of Representatives, that is the lower house or the People's House. Who does a U.S. Senator represent? And the senators represent all the people of the state. And remember, there's only 2 senators from each state, but both senators represent all the people of the state. Number 12, why do some states have more representatives? And that, some people would like to think it's because it's more water or more money or more land, but it's actually because they have more people. So California is the state with the most people, so we have more representatives. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to fill out the census, is so they can count how many people there are in the state, whether you're documented or undocumented, you're a citizen or a legal permanent resident. And they want you to know how many people are there so you can get the correct representation. Okay, now let's go to Article 2. Who is in charge of the executive branch? And the person in charge of the executive branch is the president. If the president can no longer serve, who becomes president? And the person who becomes president is the vice president. Now, I know you're thinking about Woodrow Wilson's second wife, the first lady, basically served as the unofficial president when Woodrow Wilson had his stroke. And some people thought Eleanor Roosevelt acted like the president because her husband had polio and couldn't get out. But we're talking about the vice president is the official person who takes over. Question 15. Who is the commander-in-chief of the military? And the commander-in-chief of the military is the president. Question 16. Who signs bills to become federal laws? The person who signs the bills is the president. And number 17. What does the president's cabinet do? Well, the president's cabinet basically enforces, no, excuse me, that's not correct. The president's cabinet advises the president. So again, the cabinet advises the president. Let's move on to the judicial branch. So this is Article 3. It's about the judicial branch. And question 18. What does the judicial branch do? And the judicial branch explains the laws. Going a little bit forward, the executive branch or the president enforces the law. The Congress makes the law, and the people or the criminals break the law. So again, even though the judicial branch might deal with people who break the law, Their job is to explain the laws or to review the laws. Question 19. What is the highest court in the United States? And it is the Supreme Court. Question 20. State powers. So under our Constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one power of the states? And this one is many people's favorite one. It's to give driver's licenses. Let's move along. Article 5. Article 5 talks about the amendments. And here, so it talks about how to make an amendment, how many states need to, how it needs to be approved on by the Congress and then sent on to the president, and then it's basically distributed to the states. They vote on it, and then it's finally ratified. So when it's ratified, basically then the executive branch enforces it. So here, what is an amendment? An amendment is a change to the Constitution. Article 6, federal powers. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What is one power of the federal government? So I'd like you to take a look at this one for just a second, because I actually made a mistake. Not to make treats. Oh, no, 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 no. We're talking about to make treaties. Terrible spelling. To make treaties. So those are agreements between countries. And also my favorite one, to print money. One of my brothers likes to collect coins. I personally like to collect stamps, but we both agree to make money is a good job, so we always look forward to the government printing money. And if you have an opportunity to go to a mint is where they print the money, whether it's in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, I believe there's one in Dallas, Denver, and then in San Francisco. Please go and see the process on how they make the money and how they print. They also, the Department of, or the Bureau of Engraving also prints the citizenship certificates. I would love to see that process. Okay, so now let's take a look at amendments. And Amendment 1 through 10, easy question. What do we call, what do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? And we call them the Bill of Rights. Question 24. What is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? One right or freedom from the First Amendment is freedom of the press. So that is very, very important. So if we talk about food and housing and privacy, those rights are actually protected under the 9th Amendment. They talk about amendments or rights that are not specified in the Constitution. Let's go on to question 25. What are two rights of everyone living in the United States? And the two rights are expression and worship. So that used to be an old version of the word. Now people are using this word instead. They're talking about freedom of religion. They changed that. Okay. Let's take a look at question 26. So here we're getting into the amendments beyond beyond the first 10 amendments. So there are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. describe one of them. So a lot of people are going to be super, super quick and say, oh, 18 and older can vote, or women and men can vote, especially because it was just the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. But here you don't have to pay a poll tax to vote. So that used to be one way that they would discourage African Americans, Latinos, and Asians from voting. They would basically say, hey, you have to pay to vote, or you would have to take a literacy test to prove that you can read and understand the Constitution. So, so this one, you don't have to pay a poll tax to vote. Last one, question 27. When is the last day you can send in your federal income tax form? And you're saying, why do you have this as a question? Well, actually, this is part of the 16th Amendment. This is the amendment that says, that basically said that we have to pay federal income tax form. And usually, the last day to send in your federal income tax form is April 15th. This year in 2020, we extended it. So anyway, that's it for today. Again, please take a look at my resources on U.S. Citizen Pod. We have the Citizenship Resources for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have a lot of resources for ESL students related to voting. We have these resources for Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. And I want to particularly show you one of those resources. Here you have, U.S. courts. They have things about people and how Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, they show people taking the oath of allegiance. And finally, my very, very favorite, one of my very, very favorite resources from USCIS is this video from Constitution Week. It shows people from all over the United States taking their oath of allegiance in honor of Constitution Week and Citizenship Week. So anyway, thank you for visiting us at US Citizen Pod, and I hope you had a great, a really great week, and thank you for listening. I know you will become a great American citizen. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.